What is up, everybody? It is Tuesday, November 22nd. This is the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast, the daily pro wrestling news show where we discuss everything that is going on in the world of WWE and AEW. If you enjoy this content and you are feeling a little bit oozy, you are welcome to go ahead and click the link in the description of this video and donate a couple of dollars. But if not, that's okay. Just sit back and enjoy the next 30 minutes of pro wrestling talk. As always, if you don't know now, you know I am the Notorious Nerdy D, aka the voice of the casual wrestling community and host of the Casual Wrestling Community channel. Housekeeping for this week. We are on patreon.com/the casual wrestling show. It is 100% free to follow. That is where we post all of the channel updates for the community. So jump over to patreon.com/the casual wrestling show. Please, let's build a community where I can communicate. We can do giveaways. We can start having some fun and getting the community involved in shows. I want a place where we can all come together and just communicate, talk, reply to post. I want to use that as kind of my version of Twitter, where I can kind of throw out questions and everybody can kind of bounce ideas back off of me. You don't have to donate money. I'm not asking for money. You don't have to. But if you want to be a Patreon producer of the show, like It's Zinni, LGRSM, and Ritas JC, you can become Patreon members. And we appreciate our Patreon members enormously. So now, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the show. From now on, Tuesdays are going to be the Raw Truth Tuesdays, where we go back and we're going to discuss Monday Night Raw along with the news that's happening. But I want to take Tuesdays to really break down, because right now Monday Night Raw is struggling just a little bit. And it's struggling, but I think I know what Monday Night Raw has been missing. And I can tell you exactly what Monday Night Raw has been missing, and that is the KO effect. You insert Kevin Owens into the beginning of Monday Night Raw, and immediately I'm paying attention again. See, the problem is, after I'm paying attention, it all goes back downhill. I'm being super critical. But the problem is, after Kevin Owens, the show went downhill. Raw was a slope this week that ran from an amazing opening segment, and it sloped down and it ran right into the most confusing main event I might have ever seen on a Monday Night Raw. Now, let's be honest. There were parts of the show that were actually pretty good. What did those all involve? SmackDown stars. Here we go. I'm telling you guys, right now, Triple H does not know what to do with Monday Night Raw. He is a bull in a china shop. I think he is throwing these shows together in hopes of just getting to Survivor Series. Because the best parts of Monday Night Raw this week were parts that either featured Kevin Owens, the Brawling Brutes, or Drew McIntyre. Convince me otherwise. I don't see it. This was a weird go-home show, because this is a go-home show. This is the show that is supposed to sell me on the idea that I need to go watch Survivor Series, that I need to invest 3 hours on a Saturday to sit down and watch Survivor Series War Games. And it really didn't do that for me. All it really did was re-emphasize to me this idea that Monday Night Raw is just way too long, and that Triple H is hell-bent on listening to whatever WWE's version of the IWC is, whatever we want to call them. I've seen them referred to as like E-drones. Let's call them E-drones. Whatever the E-drones are yelling on the internet, it feels like Triple H at this point is very dialed and tuned into what they're saying. And I don't think that's working. I think Triple H is ignoring the fact that his audience is a casual wrestling audience. I think Triple H has a little bit of AEW envy. more than Vince McMahon ever had. I think Triple H looks over and goes, he did it in NXT with a lot of those indie guys. And I think he looks at AEW and he sees a lot of wrestling. And I think he thinks, I've got to appease the Twitter crowd. I've got to appease the E-drones. I've got to appease the IWC. Because for the second week in a row, guys, the crowd was lifeless. That arena was dead, man. And here's the problem. Triple H is not connecting with his casual audience right now. It's just, I don't know what the problem is, but the wires are not connecting. On paper, all of the booking that Triple H is doing looks like it should make sense. It should all work for a casual audience, but the execution has been worse than poor, just to say the least. It's been worse than poor. These long-ass matches that Triple H are booking, they're not connecting with casual fans. These long-ass matches and these weird segments, they're not connecting, and they're killing the energy in the stadiums. We had a hot start. I think the crowd was ready. I think the crowd came in hot. They were ready to go. You got the Brawling Brutes. You got Kevin Owens. You got Drew McIntyre. You got the Judgment Day. I think everybody was ready to go. But even when you compare the two factions from Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, there's a glaring difference, right? There's a sheer difference in the way the crowd responds to the Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre and the way they respond to the Judgment Day. And that's all comes down to booking, right? Because right now, like, I swear to God, the Judgment Day look like a group of eighth graders on Halloween running around smashing pumpkins. Like, Dominic Mysterio has become Dennis the Menace. He's running around, prankster, running off, cheap shotting. It's like this weird attempt to become Eddie Guerrero, except that it's not coming off like Eddie Guerrero, and the crowd isn't responding. The crowd is still booing Dominic Mysterio, but not nearly the way they were when he kind of initially started talking through Judgment Day. And that's because it was go away heat. And now they just want him to go away. And this is all booking problems on Monday Night Raw because it's poor booking. But after that hot opening, which, like I said, featured a lot of SmackDown talent, it was very reliant on SmackDown talent to get the crowd going. And after that opening, crickets, man. The crowd had zero interest. The crowd had zero interest in seeing Johnny Wrestling lose to Omos. What are we doing? Why are we this? I mean, that to me, then you go opposite of the E-drones here, Triple H, and you just go, nobody wants this. Nobody wants to see Omos beat Johnny Wrestling. Omos is okay if we're going to put him in a giant role, but and fight other giants or squash people. But now all of a sudden he's gone from squashing like 5 enhancement talent to coming out and beating up on Johnny Wrestling. What a waste of Johnny Wrestling. Like, what a literal waste of Johnny Wrestling. And this whole Miz and Dexter Lumis story is completely crap. And they're just laying into it. WWE's just laying into this. And you guys know I'm a WWE guy. I don't want to be negative, but I feel that negativity rising back up inside of me when I watch Monday Night Raw. And as a casual fan, it confuses me. I don't get it. Why are we laying into this stuff? It's not working. The Dexter Lumis and Miz stuff isn't working. Let's get out of this. We've got Johnny Wrestling tied up in this. Let's get out of this. It's just these long matches. The casual wrestling fans have a short attention span. And your audience is casual. Don't get it twisted, Triple H. Your audience is, have you ever gone to a WWE event? Has Triple H looked into the crowd? You don't have the IWC audience that AEW has. AEW, when you go to an AEW show, it looks like every person there literally came out of the basement of their mother's house. That's what it looks like. When you go to a WWE show, you see moms, you see dads, you see grandmas, you see business people, you see kids. It is a huge mix. When I watched Full Gear and I looked at the crowd and I scanned it, it's like 95% sausage fest. That's what it is. When you look at a WWE crowd, you see women, you see men, you see grandmas, you see everybody. But Triple H is laying into this idea that we need these long matches, right? And the casual fans, our attention span is just not long enough. I get it, man. I get it, H. The IWC can watch a 30-minute match. Iron Man, Bryan Danielson, 10 falls, an hour long. whatever they call it, right? And it can have flips and technicality, and they can appreciate the nuances. That's not WWE. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we're into. Casual fans want to see Otis do the worm. Like, that's just a couple weeks ago, you brought Otis out on Halloween. Like Chris Farley, you let him just steal the fucking show. Go off, do the worm, do all this cool stuff. And then what do? You go pigeonhole him right back into the Alpha Academy gimmick, and we just continue to do the same thing over and over. Who are we appeasing, right? The casual fans don't understand why Triple H is burying Mustafa Ali week in and week out. And I had somebody from the WWE E-Drone kind of fan base that come at me and tell me, well, Mustafa's not being buried, guy. He's actually being put over because they're just letting him get close to overcoming all of these big names. Really? Because all I see week in and week out is Mustafa Ali being ragdolled by Bobby Lashley, thrown into the video wall, thrown into boxes in the back, going over to SmackDown and getting beaten by Ricochet. You're going to have to help me with how WWE's putting over Mustafa Ali, somebody that I think casual fans could actually get behind. And let's not talk about how the WWE has literally neutered Seth Rollins by making him a pure babyface, which is what they've done. They've laid in Seth Rollins as a babyface, guys. And it's neutered his ability to do what he does best. Seth Rollins was the perfect Riddler-style villain in WWE. He was the bad guy that we love to love. Now, Seth Rollins has to skirt this line and watch how he approaches the heels and protect the heels in his feuds. Someone explain to me how that benefits fans. Someone explain to me how they're going to book themselves out of this triple threat match that they booked with Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, and Austin Theory, because all three guys cannot come out of that match unscathed. Somebody is taking the L, and somebody's coming out of that with a couple of scars. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be Seth Rollins? Are we turning on Seth already? That doesn't seem like a good idea. He's probably your biggest asset on Monday Night Raw. Are we flip-flopping on Theory like I said they are going to? I don't think they're 100% behind Theory. There's a chance that they flip-flop on Theory. Or is it Bobby Lashley? Or have they just run out of ideas for Bobby Lashley? And if Brock Lesnar's not there, then he takes the L. Who takes the pin in that match? Like, really, who takes the pin in that triple threat match? One person is going to have to take the pin. And I have no clue. Somebody's coming out on the wrong side of that match. And in a time for me, after watching AEW Full Gear, in a time for me where AEW is literally laying into, like, they're laying all their cards into the master of the mic, MJF. It seems like WWF would really want to use Seth correctly and allow him to continue to cut high-level, intelligent heel promos. But now we have, Seth Willy Wonka Rollins. It's not Seth freaking Rollins anymore. We have Seth Willy Wonka Rollins, the baby face with the crazy hair and the crazy suits, who's neutered and isn't allowed to say bad things. That's not going to get over with casual fans. I don't know what you're doing. And it's all to appease people who didn't like Austin Theory, because that's what it is, right? You made these corrections to Austin Theory's character, and now you've got to live with them. And I get it, right? I'm on a rant today. I'm on one today. I understand. And I know everybody's just going to jump back into this train of thought, oh, Notorious Nerdy D just hates everything. I don't. Truth is, I love SmackDown. I look forward to Friday nights. It's the highlight of my wrestling week is Friday nights. But right now, I'm thinking after watching Full Gear, Wednesdays are looking a lot more appealing as a secondary form of watching wrestling, because Raw is just a hot mess right now. Just messy. Things don't make sense to me, and I like things to make sense. I like my wrestling to make sense. I don't need to look real deep into it. It has to fit in a pretty little casual wrestling box for me, or I get bored and I don't love it. Like, why? Somebody tell me why Elias isn't doing more Elias type things. Like, why is he not having concerts anymore? You have this character that you literally pulled Ezekiel off TV when he had a hot thing going with Kevin Owens. That thing was fucking blown up, but you pulled it out and you repackaged him back into Elias. Why? So he could put jeans on? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. He's not doing Elias things. So it doesn't make sense to me. And so now Riddle, once again, a guy who was, 3 or 4 months ago, was on fire, was literally on fire. Like, do you guys remember? Can you guys honestly remember the match he had with Roman Reigns on SmackDown, where him and Roman went one-on-one, and it was a fucking slugfest, and people loved it, and the crowd was so into it. And now, you know where Rollins is? He's back in tag team purgatory. Because right now, being in a tag team is basically the worst place you can be in WWE until those belts come off of the Usos. Because you're just in a tag team to be in a tag team. How many times, someone answer this for me. How many times has Riddle faced the Alpha Academy this year? It feels like every week. Just change out his partner. How many times has he fought Chad Gable? How many times has he fought Otis? How many competitions or spelling bees or scooter races has he been in with the Alpha Academy? The last half a year, besides the time he spent with Seth Rollins, I think he's been in some form or feud with the Alpha Academy. And it's insane. So what, we're just replacing Randy Orton with Elias? And like, we're not supposed to notice? Where is the personality in Monday Night Raw? Because I can't find it. Like, it is, to me, when you look at, if you just picked up a piece of paper as a wrestling fan and you just looked at the matches that happened tonight, you'd go, it's not a bad card. Like, there were some good matches, but all of these matches are lacking personality. Something is missing from Monday Night Raw. How many main events on Monday Night Raw are going to end with Bianca Belair standing ringside? Someone help me, because I'm a Bianca Belair fan, but like, the way they are booking Bianca is doing zero favors for her career. Every week we're getting some form of Asuka, Alexa, or Damage Control ending the show in the ring in a match that's not bad, but it's not the main event. And so my fear is Raw is just mid-card heaven right now. That's what it is. Someone needs to step up and take the main event slot by the balls. They need to grab whatever that proverbial brass ring is. Someone needs to grab that son of a bitch. Because I thought we were going to start treating the U.S. title like it was a big deal. But instead, it's just part of goofy backstage interviews in hour number 2. It's not getting love. It doesn't look like a world title. You fooled us, Triple H. You made us think that possibly we were getting something awesome, that we were elevating that title. But it's like you lost attention and you just went back to, we could end the show this way. That was a horrendous ending to me to a go-home Monday Night Raw. I don't know that it could have been any worse. And I'm telling you, that show was just a slope downward. Started off hot. I thought, oh shit, they fixed it. They fixed it. I was wrong. Everything I said last week, everything I've said about Triple H, I was wrong. And it was just a slope that just ran downhill until it crashed into the main event. And so that leads us into our second story today, or the second thing I'm going to talk about. And the second thing I'm going to talk about is a little bit of a spoiler. So I'm not going to change the slide yet. I'm going to give everybody the opportunity. If you don't want a spoiler going into Survivor Series War Games right now, skip ahead. Don't look at this. All right, I gave you enough time. Let's talk about it. Story number 2 is the rumors are going around right now that we're being teased who's going to be the last woman on Team Bianca. And all reports right now that I'm seeing, and all WWE insiders, there's a consensus. I've heard the name Candice LeRae, heard Chelsea Green, don't think that's happening yet. Heard Charlotte, don't think she's coming back yet. I've heard Sasha floated out there. But there's one name that I'm hearing more than all the other names, and it's Becky Lynch. Like, the consensus is in the WWE insider community that Becky Lynch is coming back, and it will be on Friday Night SmackDown. And this does add potentially more excitement to what I see right now is a little bit of a stale War Games card. The build for this pay-per-view or this premium live event, whatever you want to call it, it's been pathetic. It's been pathetic, and I don't want to throw the word pathetic out, but outside of like the Brawling Brutes and the Bloodline, and I like what's going on with the Judgment Day and AJ Styles and Finn Balor, but outside of that, man, it feels like a card that's just been like, I heard my guy Jay Knows Wrestling talk about this. Jay Knows Wrestling on TikTok. If you don't follow him, go follow him. Dude's like super wrestling smart. He's like, to me, he's the opposite spectrum of me. I'm the dumb wrestling guy who just casually watches and says what I think. That dude has real wrestling knowledge. And I heard him talk about November pay-per-views being the time of the year where wrestling companies just start throwing cards together that don't make sense. And I don't know, maybe I need to talk to him about that, because I didn't know that was a thing. But like, as I study this for the first time and kind of see, Full Gear, while I enjoyed it, it did look like a thrown together card. And War Games, to me, I'm a little more solid on knowing my WWE knowledge. It definitely looks like it's just been thrown together. But like, why was this, potentially, if this is Becky Lynch, why was this moment saved for SmackDown? Raw needed this. Like, Raw could have benefited from this announcement tremendously. Did WWE and Triple H look at that Raw show and go, this is beautiful, we don't need anything else, we can end this show with Asuka and Rhea Ripley and everybody will go home happy? I don't know what you're watching. That show literally needed. It was missing that last surprise. If Becky Lynch's music hits, she comes out, evens the odd. I think that Raw is salvaged. But instead, we're saving this for Fox, who already has Roman Reigns, the Bloodline, Drew McIntyre, Karrion Kross. Now they get Becky Lynch. Or even if it's not Becky Lynch, they get whatever this surprise gets to be. And that's crazy to me. That this is a Raw superstar. This is someone listed on the Raw roster. And that makes me think, like, I had this thought the other day that, like, we've been hearing about Sasha Banks. We've been hearing rumors and rumblings and things that sound like, well, she's coming back. And then you hear she's not coming back. Is there a possibility that Triple H is playing games with like WWE insiders? Is he feeding information to people just to try to keep, does he have a big surprise planned? I mean, could we get Becky, Sasha, all these people coming back at War Games, and he's just trying to get us off the scent? That sometimes that bothers me, that maybe Triple H thinks he's smarter than everybody, and that he is playing games and planning based on these surprises. But that sounds a lot like Tony Khan to me. When you start building shows around surprises, that sounds more like Tony Khan to me. Because as of right now, when I look at War Games, I feel like it's going to rely so heavily on that 2-cage gimmick. And Triple H is just crossing his fingers and going, I hope the fans buy into this. I hope, because they've never seen it before on a WWE arena, that they buy into this and they go, this is cool. Because outside of that, most of these matches look like a bunch of wrestlers just thrown in the ring last minute. And E-drones are going to argue, but they're good matches. Sure, on paper, but I need story. Because outside of Kevin Owens, who literally is saving this show by working through a knee injury, because that's honestly the only story that has real momentum pushing forward at this point, is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and the Bloodline. Outside of that, this card, it looks shoddy, thrown together, janky. Let's look at let's break down the War Games card. Let's do an early preview here on Tuesday of the War Games card. Let's start with Shotzi versus Ronda Rousey. While I am a fan of Shotzi, I know that I am in the minority when I talk about Shotzi. I see it. Like, the minute I post something, there is a pushback against like this idea that Shotzi's just terrible. And the same way I get pushback on being a huge Britt Baker fan, I get pushback on being a huge Shotzi fan. And I can recognize that, right? I'm allowed to like who I like, but I can also recognize in a point in time where even like casual fans are against my ideas. So I don't have high expectations for this match. Best case scenario is this match just outperforms most people's expectations and we walk away with a good taste in our mouth, right? They don't completely shit the bed and we don't walk away going, that was a train wreck. That's best case scenario for that match. So I don't think you can't lay expectations on that match of that carrying the show. Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory. I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. Good luck booking your way out of this match. Someone's got to come out on top, and someone's got to take a pin. And if you're planning on ending this one by disqualification, you're just scapegoating yourself out of this, man. How do we end up in a time where WWE is trying to develop and needs main event stars? How do we end up with the 3 biggest male stars on Monday Night Raw that are not named Kevin Owens in one match where you are going to wound one guy coming out of this match? And it's what scares me is it's more than likely it's going to be Seth Rollins or Bobby Lashley. And I mean, Seth Rollins has taken his fair share of L's this year. He doesn't need any more L's. Maybe it's theory. How do you book this match? How do you? I can't even begin to imagine how you book this match. Then let's talk about Finn Balor and AJ Styles, because to me, this is actually one of the best booked matches on the card. I don't love that it's not actually Judgment Day versus the OC, because I feel like Damian Priest has just literally been lost in the shuffle. He's an NPC in Finn Balor's story at this point. That's what he feels like. Damian Priest feels like an NPC of the Judgment Day. Like Dominic has his weird little Dennis the Menace thing. Rhea has her like she's super interesting because she's a girl who can fight the boys and also, kind of clever and been good on a microphone. Finn is just Finn, and Finn is good at what he does. And then you have kind of Damian Priest, NPC. But this match, at least there's been build up, right? There's been build up. Now, once again, I don't love the idea that Rhea Ripley and Mia Yim are off having to do their thing in a different match. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but at least there's been enough story that this match can hold up on its own. So now we get into some War Games here, because right now we got 5 matches, guys. That's what we got. And we got to assume that the War Games matches are going to be time heavy. They are going to lean into these matches to sell the show. So you get Team Bianca versus Team Damage Control, right? What happens when that bell rings? Who knows? Because we did see that Rhea Ripley got the what do you call it? The control. They got the advantage, the numbers advantage for the War Games match. The things I'm looking for in this match that I'm hoping to see is Alexa Bliss break free of whatever funk that she's in right now. We didn't get any Bray Wyatt teases today, which is weird, right? Just all of a sudden, we're not talking about that anymore. Just random flashes of Bray Wyatt insignia behind her. And then today, nothing. No mention of it. We're just not booking that way today. I'm sure Rhea Ripley's going to have some big moments. I'm sure this is going to be a match that really features Rhea Ripley. I think she probably gets the final pin. She probably wins. Look for Bianca to do Bianca. Like at this point, I am a Bianca Belair fan, but she's stale. They've got to break her out of this like character trope, super positivity, captain positivity gimmick that she has going on. She's got to show, like, one problem I have with Bianca Belair is no matter what is happening, no matter what Bayley is doing, no matter if Rhea Ripley wins the advantage, Bianca Belair is still smiling. She never looks worried. And worried, it's an emotion that it's baby faces need to be able. John Cena did it well. John Cena was always able to portray and turn himself back into the underdog. Bianca always looks confident, and I get like protruding this positive attitude. That's great, but at some point you have to find some range of emotion. Because I've talked about it. Bianca's great at being the underdog, but I think she's outgrown the ability to just be a natural underdog. So you have to start to create that situation yourself. It's time for Bianca to learn to lean into the idea that you can't smile about everything. Some things have to bother you. Rhea Ripley winning that match and you losing the numbers advantage, hands on the head, extreme worry. Like, what are we going to do? Frustration. She's not showing those range of emotion yet. And I'm afraid that Bianca Belair may just be the ultimate underdog and just not a front runner. She just doesn't know how to front run, and somebody needs to sit her down and explain to her, you've got to make it look like you could lose. She almost needs a depression phase. Most wrestlers, like we've seen Becky Lynch go through a depression phase, and I think it builds character. We've seen Charlotte and them go through depression phases. We saw John Cena go through a depression phase. These phases where it all looks like everything's going to hell. And I get you have to book Bianca super strong because they're trying to build a John Cena character, but I think the problem is we're getting into that area of like Roman Reigns prior to head of the table where it almost feels like they're not going to let us fall in love with Bianca anymore. They're going to tell us we have to fall in love with Bianca. And that's when crowds start to push back. I would have liked to have seen in booking this match, Bianca not be able to find the fifth partner. For her to look around and her to struggle. It should have been, she should have had to have really like laid into Mia Yim and like, I need you, and people to be like, we don't know why we should join you. And then that fifth partner should have been up in the air until SmackDown. And then you could have, or even up until Survivor Series War Games, and have it happen like organically. Have her look worried. Have her go into that match one man down. I think that would have been more beneficial. I would have liked to have seen it booked with her at a disadvantage instead of they continue to book her with this aura of confidence that no matter what she's up against, she'll overcome it. And it makes for a little bit of boring storytelling, to be honest. And then last, we have the Brutes versus the Bloodline, which once again, the main event is going to save this show. And with Roman Reigns, you know that's the main event. Roman's on the card. It's the last match of the night. We don't have to worry about that. And it's going to save the show. That's going to be match of the night. It's going to be epic. I mean, the amount of talent that is in that ring at once, you're going to get some crazy matchups, right? You're going to get to see Kevin Owens and Solo. You're going to get to see Kevin and Sammy. You get to see Drew and Roman. Everybody wants a shot at Roman, right? Sheamus, Drew, all of these guys. You're going to get to see Butch go crazy. Like, this has all the writings of a classic match. I have zero worry, and this is going to save the show. But this is becoming a little bit of a trope for Triple H here. It's becoming a little bit of his MO, is that I think he knows he can rely heavily on the main events. He can rely on Logan and Roman. Why I still think Clash of the Castle was good. If you look, Drew and Roman made sure that the rest of that show, it's MMA style booking. It's UFC style booking, right? If we book a good main event, the undercard isn't as important. And I think that's dangerous in pro wrestling. I think Triple H is going to have to flush out these cards, these premium live event cards a little more, because I think while I caught on early, I think there are still people subscribing to the Church of Triple H. But I think like if this doesn't go well, you can see more people jumping off the boat and swimming over to my ship and saying, all right, we see what you were talking about. Last thing is, do we get some form of Bray Wyatt match? I guess on SmackDown, there's still time to book that. But it feels like at this point, Bray Wyatt is another crutch that Triple H can lean on, because just the entrance alone is enough to appease a lot of the crowd. And letting him come out and talk is enough that a lot of the crowd fills an appetite for that like sports entertainment. I think that's what Bray does well. Is it rushed? Like if we jump right in and we do this LA Knight thing, is that not, it does feel a little rushed. So I'm assuming we get more of a Bray Wyatt moment rather than a Bray Wyatt match, but who knows at this point? Like it could be, at this point, it could be anything. Let's talk a little bit about the news here, because in the news after Monday Night Raw, I jumped on and I looked on Twitter, looked on some of the news sites I get on, and one of the biggest stories that was trending that was interesting to me is that there seems to be a large outcry of fans who are upset because Triple H or WWE or somebody within WWE remixed Johnny Gargano's Rebel Heart song. And this is interesting because I think there's a little bit of business dealings that most people don't understand, that I think I like in reading and researching, I think I understand this more than some people. And that is that like WWE doesn't necessarily own every theme song, even ones that they've created, right? They contract out, why they do this, I don't understand. And if I read correctly, the articles that I was reading, multiple themes right now are under licensing deals through CFO, who was the previous producer who was creating WWE songs, I think, after Jim Johnston. Right now we have Def Rebel, but I believe CFO licensed for a period of time these songs. So Johnny Gargano's at a point where like that song is running against license. They either have to probably up that license, which he has them by the balls, or they have to remake the song in their own way. And that's what they did. And it upset the audience. Question to me though is, why does WWE not have an in-house production team? That feels real weird. Like it feels like they should own every song. And that's only if this is true. This is all information that I read trying to figure out why, because it doesn't make sense to me. That's Triple H tinkering in places he doesn't. There has to be a reason you go switch a song that is beloved by most fans. And also when they remake these songs, why are these songs becoming more and more generic is my other problem. Like that song still had a little bit of character in a time when most people, like guys like Madcap Moss, are just getting generic ass theme song. It's like generic theme song 1. Give it to Madcap Moss. This once again feels like Triple H and WWE looking at the internet and listening to the internet and going, songs got to sound like they belong on TikTok. We got to do TikTok songs. We got to do songs that are catchy and can go viral. And this new Johnny Gargano song feels a little bit TikTok-y to me, right? But Twitter fans are losing their shit right now. Like if you go on Twitter and just type in Rebel Heart, I'd say 99% of people are just putting crying emojis and like, what are you doing? There is a group on the internet who is starting to come out of the Kool-Aid phase with Triple H and starting to go, some of these decisions are questionable. There's people who have seen the light like me, and they go, some of these decisions are questionable. That was one of the most beloved theme songs left in WWE, and to go and change it and drastically change it from a female lead. That was always kind of the big deal with that, right? It was a female-led song, and they changed it to a male in kind of the typical like rock WWE way. It was just odd tinkering. This is WWE doing things once again to kind of shoot themselves in the foot. I don't understand, like still, why can't they hire in-house production to make these themes, own these themes, and make unique theme songs? Like what is the struggle with making... Some of these theme songs are so lazy. Like Raquel Rodriguez, that's so lazy. That fucking Spanish guitar, it's just lazy. It doesn't read intensity. It doesn't read like what they're trying to sell with the package of Raquel Rodriguez. It just screams like South Texas. That's what it reads to me, right? Or like Damage Control. Literally the most generic theme song of all time. Control the stage, control the rage, whatever it says, right? Just terrible, just garbage, man. I don't understand. WWE's gonna have to figure the theme song thing out as well. Like Triple H still has a ways to go for me to completely turn over and say that things have changed. Because as far as I'm concerned, he had a hot start, but it looks like it's slowing down. Last story of the day here is also in the news. Andrade posted a cryptic Instagram post that looks like it might be a farewell to AEW fans. Now, one thing that's funny about like this new generation of wrestlers is like, can anybody just come out and say what they're thinking? And I get there's legalities and there's lawyers involved and you have to be careful, but like this is obviously meant to incite some form of communication from the internet. And I don't get, maybe it's Bray Wyatt's fault. Bray Wyatt's made it cool to have like fans decipher 100 messages to get the context of what you're really trying to say. And I get like wrestlers, they always have to like generate some kind of buzz, but like, is it not just okay to come out and say, I'm done with AEW? And let me get this out there. I've never been a huge Andrade fan. So this news to me is not big news. I'm not overly excited. I'm not, doing backflips saying how quickly can WWE and Triple H sign him and bring him back to WWE. But like I can see the benefit of bringing him back to WWE and helping out a group like Legado de Fantasma, right? It would make sense. Don't know that's what they're going to do, but he just seems like he could help Escobar kind of raise awareness of the group. I think that's what they tried to do with Selena Vega, and it didn't quite translate as much as they like. But like, I think someone like Andrade could do that. But I originally thought like when you got suspended from AEW, I thought that just meant that you got to come back in a couple of weeks and have a title match for any title of your choosing, right? Like that's how AEW works. No, That's only if you're an EVP. That's not hypocritical at all, Tony Khan. It's not hypocritical at all that your EVPs can get suspended, disappear, go away, come back, challenge for a title, and just pick up right where they left off. But if your name's Andrade and you get into a fight with either the Elite or one of Jericho's boys, you're done. You don't get to come back. You don't get to come back and do it again. You don't get to come back into a better position. The hypocrisy of AEW, it really makes it hard for me to fully commit to being a fan. Like when I read things like this, it makes it hard for me to commit and go, oh no, I'm sold on this, because it always feels like a train wreck waiting to happen. It really, AEW, every time I look at it, it just reminds me of the good old boys club. You have the Elite, which sit on the top, and right next to them, you have the Jericho boys. And I like Jericho, got no problem with Jericho, but like when I hear him talk about CM Punk, and I hear him talk, and I hear about these situations with like Andrade and CM Punk, and how Jericho is outspoken, how the Elite are outspoken, and how they take shots at CM Punk when they come back. And I see all this, and like basically if you mess with one of these guys, you can pack your bags and you can leave. And now it's going to get interesting, because we'll see how Tony Khan handles this. And another thing that bothers me is, how long is it until the Elite or Chris Jericho get jealous of MJF because he's moving the needle, and they think they need to make up some bullshit story on how he did something in the locker room or how he said something wrong, and they decide he's got to go? I'm guessing it's like 3 months from now. If MJF starts to move the ratings in a way that the Elite and Jericho and Kenny Omega can't, like if he can move the ratings in a way that they never have for AEW, I think those guys are going to start to panic. And they're going to try to find a way to push him out of the company. You can play all you want on the All Elite playground as long as you don't outperform the Bucks, Kenny Omega, or Chris Jericho. As long as MJF falls in line, which he doesn't really feel like a fall in line kind of guy, he'll be all right. But I think if he starts to step outside that box, he starts to move the needle a little bit. He starts to get recognition outside of the Elite, outside of Jericho. They're going to get concerned. That's why they didn't like CM Punk. Let's be honest. Like, I don't care what CM Punk did. When he came into the company, they definitely already had a chip on their shoulder. And I still think, like, there's still a part of me that believes quietly there is something going on behind the scenes of AEW. And I think we are on the verge of a max exodus from AEW. There is a group of guys who are trying to figure out how to get out of their contracts. And it's not just guys. I believe there's a group of guys and girls. I believe Thunder Rosa wants out. I believe Andrade wants out. I believe Miro wants out. I believe people like Penelope Ford, they want out. And I think Tony Khan is not opposed to cleaning house. I just think Tony Khan is now being a hypocrite. And instead of this whole mentality that he started with of, hey, look, you're free to come, you're free to go whenever you like, we don't want to lock you down, I think that's all gone out the window. I think now we're getting the Tony Khan who goes, let's slap some non-competes on these guys. We got to keep them out of the business. We can't let these people go to other companies. We've got to lock down and make sure that we're not competing with these people. And the IWC was so quick to attack Vince McMahon when he would give out future endeavors. Let's see how they react when Tony Khan has to face this first real loss of talent. He has to face this real moment of adversity where there are people who are disgruntled and they want out of the company. And when you start talking, you can't continue to pay all these people to sit at home. You know, he can't pay CM Punk to sit at home. He can't pay Miro to sit at home. You can't pay Andrade to sit at home. Let's see what Tony Khan has to do when he has to face this music. But that is all the time I have for today, guys. That is the Casual Wrestling Daily podcast. I will pick up where I left off tomorrow with whatever happens tomorrow. Make sure to tune in on Monday through Friday for more amazing WWE and AEW wrestling podcast content. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, casual wrestling community show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't for show that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, pile driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like for show, but you should